So once the examiner comes to the car, he or she is gonna ask you whether to put on the left signal, then put on the right signal. Then he or she is gonna check your brakes if it's working. They're gonna check the honk, and once that is done, they'll sit inside the car. Once they're inside the car, they're gonna check for your full name, license, the test you're going for, and then eventually they're gonna ask you to start driving. About starting to drive, they're gonna ask you to come out of the parking lot and take a left. So as soon as you start driving towards the left, you're gonna make sure that there is no one on the left or right, and once you reach the stop sign, you're gonna make sure that nobody's coming on the left and right. Put on the left signal, and there's a truck that is trying to park in front of me, so I'm just gonna wait for them to pass on, and in the meantime I'm gonna pull on the main lane and wait for the truck to park it. Okay, now since the truck has gone onto the left, I'm gonna start driving to the end of the road. As you can see, at the end of the road there's a stop sign, so I'm just gonna reduce my speed and make sure that I come to a complete stop and wait for 3 seconds before I start. Now that I've stopped, I'm gonna make sure I look left and right. Since there's no traffic, I'm gonna start driving forward and take a left. Once I've done that, on the next turn, on the next stop signal, I'm gonna again take a left. So I've already given my signal, checked all my mirrors, and I'm gonna wait at the stop sign for the traffic to make sure that I have a safe way to move on to take a left. Make sure that there is enough of room for you to take a left. Don't be in a hurry, as the examiner wants to make sure that you're taking a safe left turn. Keep the signal on. Make sure you're checking left and right for any of the pedestrians. Now that I see a free way, I took my left. As soon as I came on this lane, the examiner will ask you to change lanes. Make sure you check your blind spot monitors. Again, taking a left lane. Again, making sure you check your blind monitors. Again, they might ask you to change to the right lane. They're gonna ask you to stay over here up until the signal passes, and then they're gonna ask you to change it to left lane. Once that is done, you're gonna make sure that you're gonna drive straight. Wait for the traffic to clear on. Don't be in a hurry to reach your speed, especially in a crowded zone. Make sure you look left and right. Just watch for the oncoming traffic. Make sure you're maintaining enough distance from the front of your vehicle. Distance that is enough to see the tires at the bottom of your vehicle in the front. Seems like there is a construction going on the road, so we'll make sure that we are not in a hurry to reach our speed limits. The examiner is going to ask you to go straight on this particular road. As soon as you are approaching the next intersection, the examiner is going to ask you to take a left. So you're going to put on your signals and wait for the lights to turn green. Since the light has now turned green, we're gonna make sure that we turn left. But before that, we're gonna make sure that there is no pedestrians, there is no oncoming traffic. Once you've taken left, this is where the Highway 28 starts. Initially, it's gonna be the speed limit is gonna be 50 kilometers. It consists of many ups and lows. So you know, make sure that your speed limits are intact and you're not going beyond 50 as of now. Make sure you check for oncoming traffic from left and right. Continue with your speed of 50 kilometers per hour and try and maintain it. There are many twists and turns. It still continues to be the speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour. So we're going to make sure that we maintain that even on the turns, even when it goes through the slopes. As you come outside a while, you'll see a small board of Highway 28, and then there is a small sign that shows that there is a turn expected on the right, and then you'll see that the speed limit of 80 kilometers an hour begins. As soon as we see that, we're going to make sure that we increase and touch 80 kilometers an hour as soon as we are on the highway. Once we are on the highway, we're going to make sure that we maintain 80 kilometers an hour. Do not go beyond 80 kilometers an hour to make sure that you are well within the limits. There are many turns, there are many slopes on this highway, so make sure you're going to control your speed. The signs on the left hand side would show you if you're expected to have a turn left or right, so make sure you keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the oncoming traffic. Make sure you keep it in between the two lines of yellow and white. If you're doing your drive test in the morning, expect to see some school buses on the way. Make sure you're keeping safe distance from them. Okay. Like I said, there are a good number of slopes in here. So as soon as you're driving downwards to the slopes, make sure you do not exceed the speed limits. You're okay to use brakes on your slopes downwards to make sure that your speed limits are well within 80 kilometers an hour. Keep an eye of the oncoming traffic, and as you can see on the coming sign, it shows that the recommended speed for the upcoming right turn is 60 kilometers an hour. This is the time wherein the examiner is going to ask you to take a left turn on Clear Lake Road. So you're going to pull over to the left, not pull over, but take a left turn. Start reducing your speed as you are expected to take a left turn from here. Once you approach the left turn, you're going to make a stop. Make sure that there's no oncoming traffic and take a left turn as soon as it's safe for you to do so. Once you take a left turn, the examiner is going to ask you to pull over and make an emergency stop. You're going to put up the right signal. Make sure there is no pedestrians coming up. Pull over on the right. Stop the car. Put the parking lights on. put the car in park, and pull over the handbrakes. Once that is done, the examiner is going to ask you to take a 3-point turn. Of course, you're going to start by pulling off the handbrakes, putting the car in drive, and putting off the parking lights. As soon as you do so, you're going to put it up on left signal, then turn the make sure you check your blind spot, turn the car to your left. Make sure you're turning on the respective signals as you're taking right and left of your car. Making sure you're using all your mirrors to take the 3-point turn, and also using the left and right signals. As soon as you do so, the examiner is going to ask you to reach the stop sign and take a right turn. Make sure you come to a complete stop as soon as you reach the highway. Make sure it is safe for you to pull onto the highway and reach the speed limit of 80 kilometers an hour as soon as it's possible for you to do so. Continue to drive at 80 kilometers an hour. Be aware of the oncoming traffic. Make sure you're keeping a safe distance from them. Keep checking all your mirrors, left, right, center, as you're driving on the highway. Bancroft, you do not have multiple lanes, so the examiner is not going to ask you to change the lanes over here. And as you can see on the left hand side, the 2 yellow lines means that you cannot even overtake a vehicle in front of you. The signs on the right hand side of the road of upcoming turns are really useful for you to prepare yourself for the oncoming traffic and for the upcoming turns. As soon as you're reaching the downward side of a slope, make sure to control your speed. There are very high chances of you to increase your speed, so you can use your brakes to reduce down to the upcoming sign. As you can see on the upcoming sign, it shows that 50 speed limits is approaching, and by the time you reach your speed sign of 50 kilometers per hour, make sure to use your brakes and reduce your speed to 50 kilometers an hour. From here on, the speed limit is 50 kilometers per hour. There are multiple signs on this road. Especially the ones that includes sign of a school or children crossing the area, so make sure you have a good control over your speed. In contrast to the normal speed limits, in spite of the children's crossing this particular road, the speed limit does not change from 50 kilometers an hour. So you'll have to continue to keep your speed at 50 kilometers per hour. As you can see, there's an intersection coming across. So make sure to either go straight or take a right based on the examiner's you're having. In our case, the examiner asked us to go straight, so we're gonna wait for the signals to turn green and stay here. When you're at the intersection, make sure to look left and right for the oncoming traffic and for any of the pedestrians or any of the surprise folks that are trying to cross the road. As soon as it turns green, you can continue to go straight. Make sure to look at your signs. Watch for the oncoming traffic. After this, the examiner asked us to continue on the lane which bends slightly towards the right. As I cannot see any of the speed limits over here, I'm going to maintain 50 kilometers an hour. Continue to go straight. Watch for the oncoming traffic and any surprises. Now the examiner asks us to go right. As we see on approaching towards right, we see a yield sign. That means I'll have to give way to any of the oncoming traffic. Since that's not the case, I'll continue to move forward. And as soon as you approach the stop sign, you're going to make sure you come to a complete stop and then move on to the right. As you see a slope, you're going to make sure that you do not exceed your speeding limits, which is 50 kilometers an hour, and continue straight down the line. As you approach the intersection, the examiner is going to ask you to take a left. So you're going to make sure your left signal is on. And as you approach the intersection, you're going to make sure that you take a left at a comfortable and safe speed. Once you take a left, the examiner is going to ask you to continue to go straight and then take a right on the next intersection. You're going to make sure you put on your right turn signal. Make sure you keep an eye on your mirrors. Make sure you check the blind spot, especially when you're taking right, to make sure that there are no pedestrians on the way. Once you take a right, the examiner is going to ask you to continue straight and take a left turn after the stop sign. On the stop sign, you're going to make sure you come to a complete stop. Look left and right, the blind spots, and make sure that once you're safe, you take a left turn. After this, you're going to see the McDonald's sign. The examiner is going to ask you to take a left turn and enter into the parking spot. The examiner is then going to ask you to enter into one of the parking spots, which on my case is the right hand side. I'm gonna just pull over.